Hey, welcome to the Audacy DTS Sound Space. I'm your host tonight, Kevan Kenney, and it is a very fun and exciting time to talk to the man to my side, Chris Carrabba. There's new Dashboard Confessional music. We've got the single, and then, of course, in about 19 days from when you're listening and watching this right now, we're going to get the full LP.
I can't believe it.
All the truth that I can tell.
I was talking to you right before I was writing this record about how I wanted to find this record. I didn't know this was what I'd find, but this is what I was hoping when we were last talking.
Well, you know what? I want to start there because we last spoke in the summer of 2019 in New York City, and I'd previously spoken to you, and your energy that day just seemed like a little low. Like your light was just shining just slightly dimmer than usual.
Yeah.
And me being like the worry buddy that I was like, oh, did I offend him? What was that about, right? But it was funny because you were talking about just sort of feeling like you were losing the narrative, and I thought that was so fascinating because you were coming off a number of years there where you were doing these anniversary tours, and there seemed to be this sort of like renaissance of love for you and your music, and yet here you were, you'd feel like you lost the narrative. So I'm curious, like, what's step one in realizing that?
I think the celebratory nature of those anniversary tours and how great they were. And they were invigorating. They really were. They were lovely. They have been lovely to do. But they did make me understand. They did make me take a magnifying glass to the whole arc of my career as a songwriter and which songs and what I put out to this audience that had embraced the music in the first place. And looking at how far I'd come. And it's not about whether you've gone far away from where you started. It's how you got to that place. And I felt at some point I'd lost the connective tissue back through. I felt like I lost the through line. And I think around that time when we were talking last, I was really hungry for it, but I also didn't know even where to look. And, but that's always how it goes for songwriting. It's like this mystery, like, oh, it'll never happen again.
Right.
I don't know how many records you can write thinking that, but it seems to be all of them.
That connective tissue, or like the loss of it, when you say that, are you thinking about yourself like in the professional sense or the personal sense?
Personal.
Okay.
I mean, the professional sense is that, like, I go out there and I play shows like that. It's comparatively easy to stay connected to that. You're out there with the people. You're in company, but when you're writing, you're by yourself,
yeah.
and you it's not a reactive environment. It's just you. It's isolating.
So it seems like for the first step, or I don't know how early of a step, but you did go back to your origins. There was a return to the producer and James that you worked with on the early records that has produced the new album, which I know longtime Dashboard fans are going to be very excited about.
Yeah.
How early on in the process of trying to get back to your center was the reach out to James?
It was not during the writing process. It was like the moment the writing process was done, I'd realized, oh, okay, I found my way back. So what's the best way to What's the best way to present the songs? I really felt like I'd really found it. I truly felt like I'd really found it. And but I knew that I know what James brings to the table. I know it levels the songs up quite a bit. It levels my performance up quite a bit. And it's like you call in the big guns when you really feel like you have the goods to do it with.
Yeah. And there's that old adage, right? Like if you ever return to your hometown or, something from your past, it presents you with this constant, and you're able to really appreciate how much you've changed since the last time you were there, and like I think that's a feeling we've all been through. And I feel like old friends or people from our past can sort of provide a similar experience. When you reconnected with James on these songs, was there anything that revealed about yourself and where you were at in 2020, 2021?
Well, it's a way of holding a mirror up to yourself, because this is somebody that knew you at one point of your in a very intimate way, an important way, knew me as an artist and as a recording artist specifically, and watched my writing grow from that, and performance in the studio grow from that era to this era. There's been a lot of man hours in between, and he's had that kind of growth too as a producer. He's gone from being like a regional success story to an international success story. So I think we both were able to look with respect to where we'd been and kind of awed to where we'd gotten. I should say that's how I felt looking at him. Like his skill set had just exploded. It was already so high, and it just exploded in the years since we hadn't worked together.
The title of the record, All the Truth That I Can Tell, there's a bit of irony in that to me as a longtime fan of your music, because like as a kid, I would go to you for the brutal honesty and for that transparency and just the rawness of the lyricism and the music in Dashboard Confessional. What inspired that title, and was there a moment of, so much reflection of with James and the early records? Were there times you'd go back and go, man, I could have been more honest.
Yeah.
I could have, maybe I approached that topic, but I approached it in a comfortable way.
It's a great question and a great way to say it, to use that word, comfortable. So there was I was protective, I think. And so it was, the operative word in that was can. All the truth that I can tell, all the truth that I will allow myself to tell or feel allowed by circumstance to tell. And is this all the truth that I'm telling now? I hope so. But I don't, it's always, it's in hindsight that you can see all the circumstances that may be keeping you or helping you say the thing that is important, keeping you from or helping you do it.
And it is funny when you think about it. It's like our honesty is almost only what we permit ourselves to admit, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And relinquish, really, right?
Yeah, it's a slippery, how should I say this? It is not an easy thing to bear it all and then be expected to bear it all forever. Like when I would bear it all in the beginning, I didn't think anybody was listening or would ever listen.
Oh, it's so much easier then.
It's way easier then. When you know that there will be people that will definitely hear what you're going to tell, it's harder to be as honest.
Yeah.
Worth it though. It does. It enriches the whole thing though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, on both sides, right?
It just makes it harder to find it.
Well, right. But then also the people that's going to really reach the people it should be reaching.
I surely hope so.
Right?
Anyway, that's what you hope anyway.
As I said at the top, we're 19 days away as you're watching and listening to this tonight from the new record being out. Sort of the ethos of it, the center of it, the core of it being this honesty, this transparency, and you challenging yourself in that degree. Is there a song that scares you the most, knowing that there will be a lot of ears on this and a lot of eyes on the record?
Wow. The whole thing, I think. I think after, man, one song that scares me.
Or maybe a sentiment.
I think there's a sentiment on there. I think that there's if I'm being honest, I've been really protective of the people in my very tight circle, my own family, and the specifics of my life that I've maybe kept out of the narrative, because you want to be you don't want to take anything, you don't want to appropriate anything, just for the purpose of song. But it is your life, and you have to share those details sometimes, or the song demands it of you, and that's it's a new thing I'm excited about, but I'm not totally comfortable with having out there at the same time.
Right. A question for the longtime fans and really like the super Dashboard fans. It's really cool. You're doing a ton of different versions of the album in terms of like vinyl, and they seem to like be very artistic. And I don't mean to like quiz you on. I don't know how if you're well read on all the different ones that the team put together. But I was excited and I was curious where that idea came from.
Well, I think it just came from being a hobby of mine. Collecting records is a hobby of mine, so I get into the deep end of that, and wanted to give that to those fans in my fan base that also enjoy that.
Yeah. Before we go, it's 20 years this year since the iconic MTV Unplugged. I mean, really, not just like a television special, but also a CD that just was, inescapable in 2002.
It changed my life. Yeah.
And what are your memories, just in short? I mean, we could probably do an entire show on that retrospectively, but just in short, what's the first thing that comes to mind about that night in New York City?
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is the setting. They transformed that studio into a place that felt so unique to me, but also the people there. They actually came to my show. The people from MTV just came to my show and picked the first 100 people in line or whatever it was and said, "Would you like to come to this taping?" And they did. And they're there forever with me on that recording. I love that.
It's so cool. They knew every word.
They knew every word.
Well, thanks, Chris, so much for stopping by. This has been the Audacy DTS Sound Space. And again, 19 days from right now, as you're listening or watching this, we get the new record from Dashboard Confessional.